Mill caused a scene at the hospital when I was ill and made me leave to arrange her 50th birthday party. I'm a 27-year-old woman, and I've been happily married to my husband Jamie, who's 31, for 2 years now. We have a unique connection since I'm best friends with his sister Jessie, also 27. Jessie and I first crossed paths in college, sharing a dorm room during our freshman year. It was through Jessie that I met Jamie. Our relationship blossomed in my sophomore year, leading to marriage after 3 years of dating. Jessie, who played matchmaker for us, has always supported our relationship. Despite our intertwined lives, Jessie and I keep our friendship separate from my marital dynamics with Jamie and vice versa. Navigating these boundaries can be tricky, especially given our close-knit ties. However, I'm diligent about maintaining these lines clear to prevent any overlap. While I acknowledge that managing such a dynamic isn't flawless and I've had my share of missteps, I'm thankful that both my friend and husband handle things with wisdom when boundaries do blur. Moreover, my bond with Jamie's family is strong. He has a younger brother, Joey, 24, who shares a close relationship with both Jessie and Jamie. Despite their challenging family history, where their father, Frank, left when Joey was 16 due to their mother's difficult nature, the siblings have managed well. Their mother could easily be described as a narcissist, making any domestic situation intense. Initially, custody arrangements were made for Joey to live with his mother, with Frank having visitation rights. Joey yearned to live with Frank, but everyone concluded it was best for him to stay put until he could move out independently at 18. This decision was reached after calculating the emotional and logistical toll a move would have on Joey, considering his mother's temperament and the stability needed during his final school years. The siblings, along with Frank, agreed unanimously, showing a mature approach to a complex family issue. Jessie and Jamie made it a point. The wedding incident set off alarm bells, but before I could react, Jessie and Joey had already taken matters into their own hands. In a fortuitous accident, Joey spilled a bottle of red wine all over Mill's provocatively white dress. As Jessie hustled to assist her mother in changing, she cleverly locked her in a room, effectively removing her from the ceremony. This act of quick thinking ensured that the rest of our special day proceeded without further disruption. Despite their heroics, we all endured a barrage of criticism from Mill afterwards. Jamie, in particular, confronted her fiercely, pointing out that her attempt to overshadow the bride had backfired and warning her to temper her behavior unless she wanted to risk being ostracized from the family. This confrontation seemed to bring her theatrics to a temporary halt, giving us a few months of peace before she resumed her usual antics. Since then, Jamie and I have made it a practice to keep our distance from her. However, tensions flared anew just days ago. Jamie was preparing for a crucial business trip to California, one that could significantly influence his career trajectory through pivotal client negotiations. The stakes were high and his nerves were frayed. As he left for his trip, I fell ill. Initially, it seemed like minor nausea, but it quickly escalated into violent vomiting and debilitating weakness. Concerned it was more than a simple stomach bug, I drove myself to the hospital. The diagnosis was severe food poisoning. Thankfully, it wasn't life-threatening, but it required complete rest and a bland diet. The doctor suggested hospitalization for a week, considering I had no one at home to care for me. Reluctantly, I agreed, knowing I couldn't disrupt Jamie's critical trip with my predicament. Jessie was vacationing with her boyfriend, Joey was out of state, and I was estranged from my own family, making them an impossible source of support. My local friends, while kind, weren't close enough to impose such a burden on them for an entire week. With no other options, I checked myself into the hospital and informed Jamie of the situation as delicately as possible. I minimized the severity of my illness when talking to Jamie because I knew he would worry and feel compelled to return home, which was the last thing. After 3 days in the hospital, I began to recover. The doctor predicted that I would regain my full strength and energy within another 2 to 3 days and noted that I already looked much improved. Unsurprisingly, Mill eventually caught wind of my condition. True to form, she hadn't shown any concern during my worst moments, something I had anticipated, and the reason I hadn't asked for her assistance. However, once she heard of my recovery, she appeared at the hospital under the guise of concern. Her presence became overbearing. She lingered excessively, shedding crocodile tears and lamenting, "I'm so sorry you're suffering so much. I hate to see you in pain. Let me do something for you." She feigned upset that I hadn't reached out to her, claiming she could have nursed me back to health swiftly. I politely declined, stating I didn't want to impose. Her persistence escalated until I, feeling pressured, reassured her I was fine, a mistake that shifted her demeanor instantly. She sharply retorted, "Oh, if you're feeling better, why are you still here wasting my son's money? If you're truly fine, I need you to help plan my 50th birthday party and oversee the arrangement. Her birthday was looming just a week away, and she expected everything to be perfect for the celebration, which would be attended by all her children and numerous friends. It seemed she had been biding her time, waiting for any sign of my recovery to enlist my help. I explained that although I was improving, I was nowhere near ready to take on such responsibilities. She dismissed my concerns as excuses, demanding that I get discharged the next day to assist her or face being uninvited from the festivities. After issuing her ultimatum, she stormed off, indifferent to my health. I chose not to burden Jamie with this episode. His career pursuits were far more significant than engaging in the needless drama sparked by Mill's erratic demand. I promptly sent Jesse a message explaining Mill's outrageous behavior at the hospital, but I made it clear that Jamie should remain uninformed until his return. I didn't want to distract him from his critical business trip. My discharge from the hospital came only with the doctor's approval 3 days later. By then, Jamie was on his way back, and he returned in high spirits, buoyed by successful negotiations and positive feedback from his boss, which hinted at a likely promotion. Once settled, I detailed my hospital ordeal and Mill's unreasonable demands to Jamie. He listened intently, his expression darkening as the story unfolded. Understandably upset, he insisted that my health should have taken precedence over his work obligations. Despite my reassurances that I was fine, he questioned whether he should confront Mill about her behavior. I advised against it, preferring to avoid further conflict and dismissing her opinions as inconsequential. To my surprise, Jamie was resolute about attending Mill's upcoming 50th birthday party. He was determined to address her conduct directly, a decision that made me somewhat apprehensive given his palpable anger. I cautioned him to handle the situation discreetly, hoping to avoid a public spectacle. The party was yesterday, and it turned into a debacle. Despite my fears, Jamie didn't just address the issues, he took a definitive stand against Mill, rebuking her in front of her guests. His boldness was both shocking and exhilarating, publicly defending me and unequivocally putting Mill in her place. It felt surreal to witness Jamie's fierce loyalty manifest so dramatically. And as for the disinvitation, it was a blessing in disguise. Mill probably expected me to protest and plead for inclusion, but I remained detached, indifferent to her manipulative games. The atmosphere was already tense due to Mill's expectation of exerting control over me, which she failed to achieve. I later learned from Jamie, Jesse, and Joey that they had all collaborated on a plan to address Mill's behavior, a detail I wasn't privy to until after the event. The party initially unfolded smoothly with guests arriving, bringing gifts, and admiring the meticulous decor. Mill, for her part, maintained a facade of sweetness, carefully avoiding any mention of me and steering clear of Jamie, likely fearing a confrontation about my absence. Jamie managed to keep a composed demeanor, interacting with guests as if all was well, to avoid raising Mill's suspicions. The critical moment came during the cake cutting. That's when Joey, Jesse, and Jamie chose to make their move, beginning with a toast. Joey expressed gratitude towards Mill for her role in their upbringing, but quickly shifted tone. He disclosed how Mill had forced him to work part-time jobs post-divorce to help with household expenses, a practice only ceased thanks to Jesse's intervention. His revelation was met with a palpable, awkward silence, which Mill attempted to dismiss with nervous laughter. When Jesse took the floor, the tension escalated. Known for her forthrightness, Jesse recounted numerous troubling incidents from their childhood. The details were so numerous and cutting that Joey remarked on their volume. Mill's composure broke down into tears under the weight of Jesse's words. As Jesse continued, some guests, clearly upset by the revelations, left the party with their gifts in hand. Unfazed, Jesse brought the narrative to the recent incident at the hospital. She explained to the remaining guests that my absence was due to Mill's pettiness. I had been uninvited because Mill could not accept that someone ill and hospitalized was not available to serve her needs for the party. This exposure of Mill's selfishness marked a turning point in the evening, leaving an indelible mark on how her family and friends viewed her. The revelations at the party elicited a chorus of gasps from the crowd, much to Jesse's satisfaction, who seemed pleased with the dramatic impact of her speech. By this point, Mill was in a state of hysteria, incredulously shouting about the betrayal by her own children on what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of her life. Enter Jamie. He approached her calmly, offering her water and coaxing her to settle down. Unbeknownst to Mill, her momentary relief was part of a carefully orchestrated plan by her children. Through her tears, she declared Jamie the only decent child, disparaging Jesse and Joey by comparing them unfavorably to their father. Little did she know her commendations for Jamie were premature. As her tirade of praise subsided, Jamie presented her with an envelope, ostensibly a gift. I was unaware of its contents until later recounted. Mill's reaction was one of shock as she read the documents inside. The color drained from her face, her eyes widening in disbelief. Jamie had declared his financial independence from her. The paper stated he would no longer send her money or pay her monthly mortgage. The aftermath was chaotic. Mill erupted, her screams filling the room as she threatened legal action against Jamie and his siblings, a futile gesture by all accounts. In a decisive move, the three siblings left her amidst her meltdown and headed to a bar to decompress with some drinks. Since that night, Mill has bombarded them with a relentless stream of texts, alternating between pleading, ranting, and uttering absurdities, but they are not responding. It seems they've reached a collective threshold, recognizing that severing financial ties is in their best interests. The future remains uncertain for Mill, who has largely been reliant on her children's support, Jamie for her housing, Jessie for her groceries and utilities, and Joey for other expenses. She asserts she works, which would be beneficial if true. Otherwise, without the financial support she's accustomed to, it's anyone's guess what her next steps might be. Mill keeps insisting she'll apologize to me if that's what it takes to restore normalcy, but she fails to grasp that her actions towards me weren't the sole catalyst for the upheaval. They were merely the final straw in a long series of grievances. This confrontation marked a definitive breaking point for her children, and there's no undoing what has been set in motion. While I don't know Joey as intimately as Jamie and Jessie, I understand enough to see that they've all reached their limits. I'm immensely proud of them for decisively ending the cycle of toxicity. If it had been solely up to me, I might have pushed for this resolution years ago. However, I refrained, respecting their complex feelings towards their mother, especially given my estrangement from my own. This choice was entirely theirs, and knowing I wasn't the cause offers me some peace. Yet, I'm aware that Mill isn't the type to quietly fade away. Cut off from the financial support of her children, she's lost access to the comfort she once took for granted. The drama that's about to unfold will undoubtedly be intense, and I'm metaphorically grabbing my popcorn, ready for the spectacle. Update 1. A month has passed since the birthday debacle, and the siblings maintain a strict no-contact policy with Mill. Despite this, she's relentlessly attempting to reestablish connections through calls, texts, and emails. Jamie proposed they block her completely, but they've hesitated considering the potential need for emergency communication, particularly for health-related issues. Mill seems to misunderstand this allowance as a crack in their resolve, believing she can eventually wear them down to reinstate the status quo. However, the reality is starkly different. None of them has any interest in resuming contact. Their primary concern isn't familial ties, but the financial dependency she had on them. Joey estimates that with the savings from their previous support, Mill might manage for a few more months, but she'll soon face a financial crisis. She'll either need to significantly cut back her expenses or find a substantially paying job soon. Complicating matters is the uncertainty surrounding Mill's employment status. She claims to have a desk job at a small company, which, according to her, barely covers her luxury essentials. Therefore, what she earns might best be described as spending money, while the bulk of her actual living costs had been Mill's reactions have intensified again, bombarding us with around 200 texts daily, accusing us of betrayal and lamenting that her own daughter has abandoned her. She calls all her children ungrateful, failing to see how such accusations do nothing but push us further away. Her constant grievances make it impossible for anyone to consider reconciliation seriously. Thankfully, she remains unaware of Jessie's boyfriend Finn's identity, and we're keen on maintaining this secrecy. The last thing we want is for her to invade his social media and extend her barrage of messages to him. Keeping Finn insulated from her turmoil is a priority, as he doesn't need to be dragged into this chaos. Jessie has reached her limit with Mill and has firmly decided not to invite her to the wedding. Although I suspect it might be challenging to keep Mill away, she's likely to make an unsolicited appearance and stir up drama. I fully understand Jessie's decision. Mill tried to overshadow my wedding day. Undoubtedly, she'd attempt the same at Jessie's, especially given her role as the mother of the bride. For my wedding, being the mother of the groom granted her a spotlight, but at Jessie's wedding, she'd undoubtedly try to shift all attention to herself. Keeping her uninformed is crucial, though ensuring this remains feasible will be a challenge. We'll tackle these issues as they arise. I'm hopeful this will be my last update on the matter as I yearn for a drama-free future. However, knowing Mill, it's hard to be entirely optimistic. Update 2, Jessie is engaged. Finn proposed just a month after our last gathering, catching Jessie somewhat off guard, yet delightfully so. We're all thrilled for them. Finn has seamlessly blended into our family dynamic, frequently spending time with Joey due to shared interests, which has been wonderful to see. Our relationship with Frank has also strengthened, a development we attribute to the absence of Mill's overbearing influence. As of now, Mill is still in the dark about her daughter's engagement. We're keeping the celebrations low-key to avoid unwanted attention and to prevent stirring up further drama with Mill. Jessie is eager for the wedding to occur soon, and we've all plunged into planning with enthusiasm. The planning team consists of me and a few of Jessie's close friends. Meanwhile, there's been a noticeable shift on the Mill front. Her barrage of texts has ceased. It seems she's finally accepted that her children have severed financial ties and that pleading with them is futile. In a bid to stabilize her finances, Mill has put her house up for rent, presumably to manage her mortgage payments. I hope she's being prudent with the rental income because if not, she's only digging herself deeper into trouble. For now, she's moved in with her sister, although I doubt that arrangement will last long given her abrasive nature. Jessie's fury was palpable, a release of years of suppressed frustration. She didn't let Mill get a word in, an approach I fully support given Mill's tendency to play the victim, a behavior that's stomach-churning at best. This confrontation served as a much-needed reality check. If Mill retains any self-respect, she'll heed the clear message and keep her distance. Jessie's response was sharp and unequivocal, a necessary tone to convey our collective exhaustion and firm boundary. We no longer want her in our lives. Following the call, Jessie took the decisive step of blocking Mill's number, assigning any emergency contacts to the rest of us until after the wedding. She's determined to prevent any further intrusion into her life, especially during such a critical time. With this, it feels like we can finally close the chapter on the Mill saga and move forward as a family. We're all ready to embrace what comes next, free from the drama that has overshadowed our recent gatherings. Farewell to that chapter, and here's to the new beginnings awaiting Jessie, Finn, and all of us. Bye-bye.